You can be smart and still do stupid things. And this one is sneaky because this mistake doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels responsible. It feels like you're being proactive. It feels like you're handling your business. You went online, you found a deed form. It looked official. It had the right blanks, the right legal sounding language, maybe even a little seal graphic in the corner. You filled it in, you got it notarized, and you filed it at the county clerk's office. Done. $15 for the form, $20 to file it, $35 in an afternoon, and you just handled your estate planning. Except you didn't. What you actually did was plant a landmine in your title, and nobody's going to know it's there until your kids try to sell that house. Then everything stops. Here's what that looks like in real life. Imagine a father, retired, the kind of guy everyone turns to for advice. The one in the neighborhood people call when they don't know what to do. Changes his own oil. Built his back deck with his own two hands and proud of it. He finds a deed form online, transfers his house to himself and his son as joint tenants, files it at the courthouse, and feels great about it. Tells his son it is handled. Dad passes a few years later. Son calls a realtor, let's say someone like me, ready to sell. We get a contract in 30 days, good price. Family needs the money. And then the title company calls. Turns out that form Dad used was a generic form, not specific to Florida. It was missing a specific legal description format required by the county. The witness requirements weren't met correctly, and the joint tenancy language wasn't worded correctly under Florida statute, which means the survivorship rights Dad thought he was creating, the whole reason he did this, weren't actually created. The title is clouded. The contract falls apart. The buyer walks. And now the son is looking at a quiet title lawsuit to fix it. A court process that can take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, depending on the backlog in your county. 2 years to fix a $35 mistake. I'm Tom McNamara, Florida Real Estate Insider. This is video 4 in our series on the 6 ways good people accidentally wreck their kids' inheritance. If you're just joining us, go back and watch videos 1, 2, and 3 first. The links are in the description. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now and hit the bell. This series is going to save somebody real money, and I don't want you to miss a piece of it. As always, I am not an attorney, and this is not legal advice. Everything I tell you today is the beginning of your education. A qualified real estate attorney licensed in your state is the end of it. We good? All right, let's go. Let's talk about why this form problem is so much bigger than people think. Most people assume that if the county clerk accepted the document and filed it, it must be fine. And I understand why you'd think that. The clerk stamped it. It's in the official record. How bad can it be? Well, here's how bad it can be. The county clerk is not a lawyer. The clerk's office is not reviewing your deed for legal sufficiency. They are checking that it has a signature, a notarization, and a filing fee. That's it. The document can be completely wrong, legally defective in 3 different ways, and sail right on through the clerk's office without a single red flag. The problem doesn't show up at the filing. It shows up at closing. When a title examiner goes back through the chain of title and finds something that doesn't meet Florida's legal requirements, that's when the whole transaction freezes. And here's what makes it worse. Title issues don't just affect the bad deed. They can affect every transaction on that property going forward until the defect is resolved. You're not just dealing with a problem from 15 years ago. That problem is now your kid's problem, and their buyer's problem, and their buyer's lender's problem. One bad form. Everybody stops. Here's something most people don't know. Florida is one of only 5 states in the entire country that requires witnesses on a deed. That means most of the generic deed forms floating around on the internet were built for states that don't have that requirement. You download a national form, and you are already behind before you fill in a single blank. I want you to hear from my friend Joe Seagle. Joe is a Florida real estate attorney that I've worked with for over a decade. Here's what he sees when people bring him online deed forms.
Well, number one, people have to understand real estate is extremely local. Every state is different about what they require in their deeds. And for instance, Florida requires 2 witnesses. The notary can be one of the witnesses. Georgia only requires 1 witness. The notary can't be the witness. So it's North Carolina doesn't require witnesses at all. South Carolina requires witnesses, and you're actually notarizing the witness. You're not notarizing the seller who signed the deed. So
that's just a few states.
Yeah, that's just a few states I know off the top of my head. So whenever you pull in a deed offline, that deed has typically been designed in any jurisdiction across the country. But I find that a lot of times they're designed really for California, or they're designed for Texas. Those are the 2 big ones. And in Florida, for instance, your marital status of the seller is extremely important because if you are married and you are conveying property that is your homestead, you have to have your spouse join you, even if your name is the only one on the deed. In North Carolina, for instance, if you are married, your spouse must sign the deed of any type of property, whether it's homestead or not. So that's the kind of things that you miss just by going online. I mean, even other lawyers, we do a ton of work for other lawyers from around the country.
Sure.
Whenever they need a deed in Florida, or they need a deed in North or South Carolina, Georgia, wherever we happen to have people licensed. And a lot of times we look at it and we go, well, you don't need this kind of deed. Let's use that kind of deed, or let's do this instead of that. You know, we throw other ideas out to them. Whereas if they just went online, or they just used an online service and said, here, we just need a deed done, it's not going to work. So even other lawyers use other lawyers in that state to do their deeds. So if you're not a lawyer and you're just doing it on your own, you're rolling the dice.
And that marital status point Joe makes is critical, and most people miss it completely. If you're married and you are conveying your homestead in Florida, your spouse has to sign that deed, even if their name is not on it. It's not optional, required. Miss that signature and the deed is void. Another thing a generic online form will never tell you, and a Florida real estate attorney will catch in the first 5 minutes. Now, I want to show you the 3 specific things that sink these forms every time. And the third one is the one that gets me, because it involves something the son did with the best intentions in the world, and nobody catches it until it's too late. Stick with me. First, the legal description. You know how your GPS can get you to the wrong house if someone typed in the address wrong? The legal description is the GPS for your deed. And if it's wrong, even slightly wrong, the deed may not actually convey the property you think it conveys. Not the address, not the parcel number, the legal description. Every county in Florida has a specific format for how property must be described in a deed. It's technical. It references plat books, lot numbers, subdivision names, township, and range coordinates. Generic online forms frequently get this wrong because they're not built for your specific county. Second, the witnesses. Florida requires 2 witnesses on a deed. The notary can serve as one of them, but only if they sign in both places. One says a witness and one says the notary. Most people don't know that, so they get the notary stamp, find 1 witness, and think they're done. They're not. You need 2. As of January 2024, Florida now also requires each witness's mailing address printed on the document, not just their signature. Miss that, and the clerk's office will reject it before it's even recorded. Third, and this one's sneaky because nobody catches it at the time. Dad fills out the deed at the kitchen table. The notary is there. The witnesses sign. Everything looks good. Dad feels good about it, but it doesn't quite feel finished. So he mails it to his son to wrap it up. Son looks at it, figures he probably should sign it too. It's going to be his house after all. So he signs it and drops it off at the clerk's office. Clerk accepts it, stamps it, records it. Dad gets a copy in the mail. Everybody feels great. Years later, the son decides to sell. The title examiner pulls the chain of title, sees an extra signature on the deed, and starts asking questions. Who signed this? Why? What's their relationship to the transaction? Because in Florida, the grantee, the person receiving the property, doesn't sign the deed. That extra signature is a defect. The title is clouded. The sale stops. The son didn't need to sign. Dad didn't know that. The son didn't know that. And without someone in their corner who did know that, a simple, well-intentioned mistake just became a very expensive problem. And if you're sitting here right now thinking, wait, I think we did something like that, don't panic. This is fixable, but it needs to be fixed before you need it to be right, not after. Now, let me tell you what happens when you try to fix it. The legal remedy for a clouded title is called a quiet title action. It's a lawsuit. You are literally suing to have the court declare that your title is clean. It requires an attorney. It requires filing fees. It requires serving notice to any party that might have an interest in the property. And then it requires waiting for the court's docket to move. I've talked to sons and daughters who found out about this problem the same week they were trying to close. The buyer is ready, the moving truck is booked, and now everything stops while the attorneys sort out the mistake the father made 15 years ago at a kitchen table. In some Florida counties right now, quiet title actions are taking 12 to 24 months. During that time, the house cannot be sold with clean title. Property taxes don't stop. Insurance doesn't stop. If there's a mortgage, that doesn't stop either. I've seen families lose a buyer, watch the market shift, and end up selling for less than they would have gotten 2 years earlier, all because of a form that costs less than dinner. So what's the right answer? What should you actually do? Hire an attorney to draft your deed, a real estate attorney who knows Florida law and knows your county. The cost is typically a few $100s. That's it. A few $100s to have it done correctly, with the right legal description pulled from the official records, with proper witnesses, with proper notarization, with language that actually accomplishes what you're trying to accomplish. Compare that to a quiet title action. Attorney fees alone can be $1,500 to $5,000 or more, depending on complexity. Add court costs, filing fees, the cost of carrying the property during the delay, and the potential loss on the sale price if the market moves against you. The $20 form just became a $20,000 problem, sometimes more. Here's your homework before next week. If anyone in your family has ever transferred a property using a form they found online, or a form in an office supply store, or a form that a well-meaning friend gave them, get that deed reviewed. And here's my specific recommendation. Don't just call a title company. Find an attorney-owned title company and pay for a full title search. In Florida, that typically runs somewhere between $150 and $300. Here's why it matters. A standard title company can find the problem, but they cannot legally advise you on how to fix it. They'll find the defect and then send you out the door to hire an attorney anyway. An attorney-owned title company can find it and fix it in the same conversation. The cost is often comparable. The peace of mind isn't even close. Catching a problem now is 1,000 times better than catching it at the closing table with a buyer waiting and a contract on the line. And if you're in Florida and you want to know what that property is worth right now, so you have real numbers when you sit down with an attorney, reach out. Link is in the description. Next week, we're getting into the reverse mortgage time bomb. Most families don't know the clock even starts when a borrower passes. And I've seen it tick all the way down while a family was still planning the funeral. You cannot afford to miss that one. That form was free. The mistake cost the family 2 years and every dollar of profit they were counting on. Don't let that be your story. This has been the Florida Real Estate Insider. I'm still Tom McNamara. I'll see you in the next one.